So I'm actually doing fine with my one non-fiction a month this year, and I finally finished Unfinished by Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and it's time to review it. Hey guys, and welcome back to my new video. I hope everyone is doing absolutely fine. For those new to my channel, I'm Dev, and you'll find book reviews, unboxings, vlogs, and a lot many other fun stuff related to books and fandom. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you can hit the subscribe button. And now let's start with this video. So we all know who Priyanka is. At least majority of us actually know who she is. We have seen her films and we have seen her journey from Miss India to Miss World, from Bollywood to Hollywood. But what we don't exactly know is those intricate details that made her what she is today. So as I've said, I finally finished reading Unfinished by Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and this was one of those highly anticipated reads for me this year if I talk about those non-fiction reads. So I was excited to read it, so finally finished it, and it's time to review it. Unfinished is a book which delves into the life of Priyanka Chopra, and it explores her story from her own words. So that's what non-fiction autobiographies do. They actually covers whole person's journey throughout. So this was the book which had 11 chapters in total, which started from her childhood till the very end, and it talked about, in Priyanka Chopra's own words, it talked about her life, her career, her family, friends, and marriage, for instance. So all those things this book covered. So as I was saying, 11 chapters are there in this book, and each are named randomly. But one of the things that I found interesting was before each chapter there was a quote, and these were the quotes said by authors or different personalities, and some big personalities, and these are famous quotes. So I actually like the idea of adding quotes at the very start of each chapter, because those chapters were interconnected with those quotes, and it was kind of relatable with those quotes. There was one quote around water, I believe that was said by Bruce Lee. So that was one of those my favorite quotes from this book, and I actually liked she mentioned who actually said that line, and all those chapters were kind of relatable with all those quotes. So I like the idea behind it, and I'm a big fan of when the chapter starts with a quote or something like that, because I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson, though he writes fiction, fantasy, but those are one of those things that I found in his books a lot. Each chapter starts with a heading or 2 to 3 lines that are different sort of lines. So I'm actually a big fan of it, and finding them in this non-fiction was one big plus point for me, and I actually liked it. So let's talk more about this book. Now what I liked about this read was that she touched some small elements that can actually motivate some people. So her story is not from rags to riches like we have seen too often in autobiographies and biographies, that people are coming from very small background and reaching to the new heights. So her story was not like that. She was from a middle class decent family, and she took on the world in full confidence. From the very first chapter and in the subsequent chapters as well, I was finding those small moments that can actually motivate people. In the very first chapter, if I'm not wrong, she touched upon those culture and village girls and all those things, medical attention is not provided to the girls living in village, and all those small things that she saw from her own eyes. So she mentioned those things, and whenever I read a non-fiction, whenever I pick a non-fiction, one of the things that I look for in a book is some factors that can actually motivate me. Everyone goes through something in her life, and these biographies, non-fictions are a way to overcome those things. So I look for positive things, the things that can actually motivate me, the things that can make me resilient enough that I can bounce back. On the similar lines, I'll talk about some things that I didn't like in this book. So this is an honest review, so I'll be absolute honest with you all. So she talked about school bullying and all those family problems in her life, and I actually could relate with those school bullying and all those things that I actually saw with my own eyes when I was a kid. So those were the things I actually liked, but I didn't like the explanation behind it. At certain areas I was finding a little more details how to overcome those things would have sufficed, but there were not those things, and I was hoping to read some more. She was studying at a foreign location, I believe that was America, so she was taking education at that moment at that place, and she was bullied. A little more explanation in explaining how she overcame those things would have helped others as well. That's my belief. Though she mentioned she went on a family vacation or something like that, but I think a little more detail to those intricate subjects would have sufficed. But yeah, that was one of those things that I wanted to share, that I was finding it really hard how she overcame that and how she face the world with full confidence without mentioning what she did. So yeah, that was one of those factors that I wanted to talk about. I was talking about like what all details she shared from her life, so I thought let's add a point that I didn't like. So though it was like a small thing, because in majority of her cases she explained those things very beautifully. So this was one of those things that I felt I need to talk about, so I talked. So let's jump to the next one. Talking about the writing style in this book, so I would surely say that the writing style is pretty easy, and I can surely say that she targeted non-readers as well with her book. Like the language was super easy, and I can like feel that she actually wrote it and she didn't take any help from any other like co-author, something like that. We have seen like Sachin Tendulkar took help of Boria Majumdar in coming up with his book. So that is one of those things, and the writing style was like super easy. So if you are new to reading, you can surely pick this one. If you are not like comfortable with non-fictions, so this will be the book that you can actually read quite easily, because there's not much language issue or anything as such. So that is one of those points. I totally forgot to mention that the language was, as I was saying, simple, and it was written in a kind like YA fiction type of a kind, like young adult fiction. So the language was pretty easy, and she was using those hashtags, and literally I found like LOL at certain point in this book. So she was using all of those like abbreviations, I think that was the right word, but she was using all those things, and hashtags were like so many in this read, and I found so many of hashtags and all those things. Like I used to find like we are in the advance of social media and all those things, so YA novels currently are having hashtag, SMS, mails, all those things included in those books. She's a celebrity, we all know, so she actually included all those items, all those like abbreviations, all those hashtags in her book. And she's a celebrity, as I was saying, so they are surrounded by hashtags throughout their life, day in day out. So that was actually fine for me, but maybe some people find it like a little irritating, like finding hashtags and LOL at the end of chapter, maybe end of the para. But that's her book, as I was saying, and that's her choice what she wants to include, but I was actually pretty fine with the same. So I've already talked about language and writing style and all those things, but I'll give a little more emphasis on style part of this book. Like this is a book which has so much of masala, if I have to tell in Indian terms, though the language is easy, but there was so much of what you say is masala, and what is like this book will sell like hotcakes. Like it had so much of commercial value, and the writing style especially is kind of like everyone would like to read it. Like it was some kind of a article you find, like Bollywood type of article. So that is one of those things that I found in this book, and people who are not a big fan of masala and all those things, I don't believe you like this book, because whenever I pick a non-fiction, I look for positive sides, as I've said earlier, and I treat that book as a fiction, work of fiction, and try to find positive things. Read this way, like you have done like 10 good things in your life, so you can show it as 20 if you're writing your book, like a book on yourself. And if you have done like 20 bad things in your life, you can like reduce those things to 5. So whenever non-fiction, you read a non-fiction, take into consideration that there will be a bias, and this is a common term. Like authors usually get biased when writing a non-fiction, can get biased when writing a fiction as well, like including all the minor details in their books. So that comes into picture, and that's the reason I try to find positive things in any kind of book. That's not only for like Priyanka Chopra's book, but for any other book in general, especially autobiographies. Well, I'm left with just 2 things in this review, and we'll then conclude the review. So let's talk about the thing I didn't like, and then we'll jump to the one of the things that I totally absolutely loved, and that was the last chapter of this book, and we'll share my insights about the session I heard in JLF as well. So one of the things that I didn't like was, like, she mentioned her career, but she didn't go in much of a detail. Like, she appreciated those who gave her a chance, and those were directors and all those things, and she appreciated a couple of actors who actually helped her in her career. Now I know it's a short book, like 300 odd pages, and she would exclude those that were not a part of her life, but I was hoping to read something more, how she progressed in her career. Though she mentioned a lot of details, like a couple of chapters I believe was like related to her career, though the book is all about her career, but I was talking about like film industry in general. But she moved to the Hollywood industry in very quick succession, and that's the thing I didn't like much. Like she didn't talk more about like Bollywood and all those things like from her film career, and I was hoping to read more about the same because I don't know much details about how their relationship are with the other actors and all those things. I believe she mentioned one of those things related to pay and how actors were paid more than like actresses. So I actually like that bit, like they should, we talk about equality and all those things, so they should like be paid exactly the same amount, but that's whole different thing. So yeah, that was the point that I wanted to like point out, because he mentioned in a book like 90-10 rule, like 90% of the things he shared from her own life and the 10% are the things that she can't really like share with anyone else. I think that I interpret it in these terms only. So I found those were not the 90% bits that we found in this book. Like she gave so little of the information. Maybe she wants to write some more books, some more like titles in future. That can be a possibility, but I actually was hoping to read more, and after reading that 90-10 rule, like 90% of the things she said, I thought let's include it in my review as well. Now coming to the last thing that I wanted to share with you all, so that is from the very last chapter of this book, that was 11th I guess, and that's the reason I'm including it at the end of this video. So she talked about helping society at the very end of this book, and I believe that is the perfect closer to this book. Now I've seen Priyanka Chopra's session in JLF, that was like Jaipur Literature Festival that happened a few days back, like ended a few days back. So she was in talk with Sobha De, and the session actually started when Sobha De asked Priyanka about the last chapter. The talk actually started from the very last chapter, and I actually liked it because last chapter was the one that I actually ended up loving, because she talked about helping society and how she was associated with UNICEF and how she traveled world and how she helped every other people. She took up like cases from India and from abroad and all those things. Like when she was crowned Miss India, though she traveled whole world helping others, like she was the face to spread awareness about all those things like poverty, education and all those things when she was made like Miss India. But she continued all those things with the help of UNICEF, and I actually liked that chapter, as I was saying, and it actually made me a little emotional at the same time, because the things she said and the examples she took actually went to the heart. And I will again say that that was the perfect closer to this book, because we have too often seen any type of movie in theaters, and after seeing any kind of like emotional ending, we like walk out of theater like crying or something like that. And that was the similar case with this book as well, that she ended this book on a point, not talking about her own life, but becoming voice for some other people, and I actually like that, and that was one of those best chapters from this book. So yeah, that was my review for this book. Like I actually liked those quotation quotes at the very start of chapters. I like those elements that she brought in from her own life, and those small bits like culture and all those things, like she did her growth from here to abroad and all those things. And I actually like the writing style of this book as well, and a couple of things that I said were like a lot many details were missing. Like I was hoping to become more resilient after reading this book, how to bounce back and all those things that I talked to you about. So I believe if there was some more details, I would have liked this book much better. And in a career part in Bollywood itself, I was hoping to read something more. That can be a personal choice. That was my personal choice. So yeah, maybe you like this book without those details, but I didn't like those chapters without all those details, so I thought I'll mention those. So I rated this book 3.5 stars, and it's a non-fiction, it's autobiography. If you're into autobiography, if you're a big fan of like Priyanka Chopra, do pick this book. It's available online like Amazon and Flipkart, so I'll most probably add a link down there so you can buy that book. So saying it once again, so that was all for this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, you can hit the like button. You can comment down below and let me know your thoughts related to this book or anything in general related to books, and follow me over my social media handles are here. You can DM me anytime over there, and we'll be catching up real soon. We'll be coming up with new book reviews and all those things like unboxings, vlogs and all those things. So stay healthy, stay home, stay safe. Bye bye and bye.